Fleet Commander Darius Vega stared at the transfer order with barely concealed disgust. The holographic document hovered above his desk, its official Imperial seal glowing with cold authority. A diplomatic gift, Admiral Thorne had called it, to reward your exemplary service during the Proxima campaign. Darius knew better. This wasn't a reward, it was a test of loyalty. The Empire had recently pacified the Solani system, and now they were distributing the spoils of war, including people. The door to his quarters slid open with a soft hiss. Two security officers entered, flanking a slender figure with copper skin that seemed to shimmer under the harsh lighting of the station. Her hair fell in tight golden curls around her face, partially obscuring features that were almost, but not quite, human. Her eyes, three of them, were an unsettling shade of amber, watching him with wary intelligence. "The Solani female as requested, Commander," said the taller officer, extending a control bracelet toward Darius. "Standard restraint protocols are active. She understands basic commands." Darius took the bracelet reluctantly, dismissed. After the officers departed, he and the alien regarded each other in uncomfortable silence. Her third eye, positioned slightly above the bridge of her nose, blinked independently of the others. "Do you have a name?" he finally asked. "They call me Helix," she replied in perfect standard, her voice carrying an unusual melodic quality. "But my true name is Eilester V. Hinora." Darius couldn't hide his surprise. "You speak standard." "I was a linguist before the invasion." Something flashed across her face, pride, perhaps, or defiance. "I studied 17 languages, including all major human dialects." He gestured toward a chair. "Sit, please," he added awkwardly. She remained standing. "I understand my purpose here, Commander. I've been informed of what's expected. Let's not pretend this is a social call." Darius felt a flush of shame. Everyone knew what happened to diplomatic gifts. They were broken, used as examples to their people of Imperial dominance. Many officers considered it a perk of their rank. "That's not going to happen here," he said firmly. Helix's central eye narrowed. "You wouldn't be the first to make false promises." "I'm not in the habit of lying." Darius set the control bracelet down on his desk and stepped away from it. "I didn't ask for you to be brought here, and I have no intention of keeping you against your will." "Then release me," she challenged. "It's not that simple. If I remove that bracelet and let you go, we'll both be executed for treason." Her shoulders sagged slightly. "So I'm still a prisoner, just in a more comfortable cell." Darius walked to the viewport, gazing out at the stars. The Solani system was barely visible, a distant cluster of light that had been free just months ago. "For now," he admitted, "but I give you my word I will find a way to get you home." Later that night, as Helix slept in the small adjoining room, Darius reviewed her file. She hadn't been exaggerating. She was indeed a renowned scholar, specializing in cross-species communication. The Empire hadn't just given him a slave. They'd handed him one of the brightest minds of the Solani people. And they expected him to break her. Darius closed the file and made a decision that would change everything. He would help her, not because it was right, but because something in those three intelligent eyes had awakened a part of him he thought the war had killed long ago. For 3 days, Helix barely spoke. She spent hours staring out the viewport at distant stars, her three eyes reflecting pinpoints of light. Darius maintained his distance, ensuring she had adequate food, privacy, and access to the station's information networks, heavily censored, of course. On the 4th day, he found her studying schematics of the station. "Planning an escape?" he asked, only half joking. "Learning," she replied without looking up. "Knowledge is sacred to my people. Even in captivity, we seek to understand." Darius hesitated, then sat across from her. "Tell me about your world." Helix's central eye focused on him while the other two remained on the schematic. "Why would you care? Your empire has already cataloged our resources, assessed our strategic value, and calculated our worth." "I'm not asking for a military report. I want to know about your people." Something softened in her posture. "We call our planet Alasra. Before your ships came, we had just entered our third enlightenment, an era of art and philosophy after centuries of technological advancement." She gestured to her third eye. "We evolved in forests where predators attacked from above. This eye helped us survive, but now we use it to perceive mathematical patterns and quantum fluctuations." "You're a quantum physicist." Among other things, our scholars study multiple disciplines. I specialized in language because it's the foundation of understanding between species. Her voice held a note of bitter irony. Clearly, I failed my purpose. Communication goes both ways, Darius said quietly. We weren't interested in understanding. Later that week, Darius was summoned to a command briefing. Admiral Thorne's hologram dominated the room. The Solani resistance continues to be problematic, Thorne announced. Commander Vega, I understand you've been given one of their scholars. Have you extracted any useful intelligence? Darius felt the eyes of his fellow officers. She's been cooperative but has limited military knowledge. Her value lies in cultural insights. Cultural insights won't crush their insurgency, Thorne replied coldly. Break her, make an example. We'll broadcast it to the resistance camps. That night, Darius returned to his quarters to find Helix creating intricate patterns with light using some kind of handheld device. What is that? He asked, momentarily distracted from the briefing's horrors. A children's toy from my world. She manipulated the light into a complex geometric form. It teaches spatial reasoning. I found the design specifications in your database and replicated it. Darius watched the pattern shift and pulse. It's beautiful. Beauty is mathematical, universal. Helix hesitated. Would you like to try? Their fingers brushed as she handed him the device. Darius felt an unexpected warmth spread through him at the contact. For the next hour, she taught him the basics of Solani light painting, laughing gently at his clumsy attempts. When they finally stopped, Darius knew he could no longer maintain the pretense of their arrangement. They want me to break you, he said bluntly, to make you an example. Her three eyes widened slightly, but she showed no fear. Will you? No, he took a deep breath. But we need to be careful. I'm going to start filing reports about your rehabilitation. You'll need to appear subdued when others are present. A performance then? She studied him with all three eyes. Why would you risk this for me? Darius thought about the light patterns they'd created together, about the knowledge she'd shared so freely despite everything his people had done to hers. Because what we're doing to your people is wrong, he said, and perhaps because in another life we might have been friends. Helix's expression softened, perhaps in this one too. That night, Darius dreamed of copper skin and three amber eyes, and woke with a startling realization. He was developing feelings that went far beyond alliance or friendship, feelings that could get them both killed. They're building a neural harvester, Darius said, sliding the classified report across the table. 6 weeks had passed since Helix had arrived, and everything had changed. What began as reluctant cohabitation had evolved into genuine partnership, and something more that neither dared acknowledge. Helix's hands trembled as she read. This would destroy the consciousness of the subject while extracting all neural data. They plan to use it on your people, starting with the resistance leaders. Her three eyes closed briefly in pain. My brother leads the Northern Resistance. Darius felt as if he'd been struck. In all their conversations, she'd never mentioned family. Helix, I'm sorry, I didn't know. There's much I haven't told you. She looked up at him, determination replacing grief. I need to warn them. Communications to Alasra are monitored. Anything suspicious would be flagged immediately. There are ways, she said. My people developed quantum-entangled communication, undetectable, unhackable. And you have access to this technology. She touched her temple where a small copper-colored implant gleamed against her skin. We all do, but I need a power source strong enough to reach Alasra. Darius considered their options. The auxiliary fusion reactor in Section 12 is unmonitored during third shift, but getting you there. We'll find a way. She reached across the table, her copper fingers intertwining with his. Darius, if we do this, there's no going back. That night they executed their plan. Using his command codes, Darius created a maintenance request that would take them near the reactor. Helix wore a technician's uniform, her distinctive hair hidden beneath a cap, her third eye obscured by specialized glasses. As they neared the reactor, Darius felt his heart pounding. Everything in his training screamed that this was treason, but looking at Helix, at the determination in her stance, the intelligence in her eyes, he knew he was finally doing something right. Inside the reactor chamber, Helix worked quickly, connecting her implant to the power system. This will only take a moment. Hurry, Darius urged, keeping watch at the door. She closed all three eyes, concentrating deeply as the implant began to glow. I'm connected, sending the warning now. Suddenly, alarms blared throughout the section. Darius checked the security feed. Someone's coming, we need to go. As they raced through the corridors, a security team rounded the corner. Trapped, Darius pushed Helix behind him, reaching for his sidearm. Commander Vega, the lead officer said, Admiral Thorne requests your immediate presence with the Solani. In the Admiral's office, Thorne's cold eyes moved between them. Interesting energy signature from the auxiliary reactor. Care to explain? Routine maintenance, Darius said smoothly. I'm showing Helix our technology as part of her integration training. Integration? Thorne's laugh was harsh. That's not what these gifts are for, Commander. Your reports have been concerning. Perhaps you've grown too attached to your alien pet. Helix stiffened beside him. She's not a pet, Darius replied, struggling to keep his voice level. She's a valuable intelligence asset. Indeed, Thorne circled them slowly. So valuable that I've authorized her transfer to the research division. The neural harvester needs a test subject. Darius felt ice in his veins. Sir, with all due respect. This isn't a negotiation, Commander. Security will collect her tomorrow morning. Thorne smiled coldly. Unless, of course, you have objections, perhaps enough to commit treason. That night, Darius made the hardest decision of his life. As Helix slept, he packed essential supplies, downloaded classified transit codes, and prepared their escape. When she woke, he was sitting on the edge of her bed. We're leaving, he said simply, tonight. Her three eyes widened. You'd give up everything. Darius took her hand, feeling the warmth of her copper skin against his. I already have. The maintenance shuttle trembled as it broke from the station's docking clamps. Darius's hands flew over the controls, initiating the escape sequence he'd programmed hours earlier. They're hailing us, Helix said, her three eyes fixed on the communications display. Ignore it. We have maybe 5 minutes before they realize this isn't an authorized departure. The shuttle accelerated away from the station, its small engines straining. Behind them, alarm lights began flashing across the Imperial outpost. Where are we going? Helix asked. Raiders Point. It's a neutral trading post in the Cerulean Nebula. No Imperial presence, no extradition treaties. We should be safe there until we figure out our next move. The communications panel erupted with Admiral Thorne's furious voice. Commander Vega, return to station immediately. This is your only warning. Darius cut the channel, and now we have about 2 minutes. As if on cue, the shuttle's sensors detected 2 Imperial fighters launching from the station. They'll catch us before we reach the jump point, Helix said, tension evident in her voice. Not if we follow the plan. Darius engaged the shuttle's small FTL drive. Hold on. The stars stretched into lines as they accelerated, but the Imperial fighters were gaining. A warning shot flashed past their viewport. Darius, Helix's voice was unnaturally calm. There's something I haven't told you. This really isn't the time for. My people have abilities that we've kept hidden from yours. Her copper skin began to glow subtly. Do you trust me? Before he could answer, she placed her hands on the shuttle's control panel. All 3 of her eyes closed in concentration, and a strange energy flowed from her fingertips into the ship's systems. The engines roared with sudden power, pushing them forward at impossible speed. What did you just do? Darius gasped as the pursuing fighters fell behind. Quantum manipulation. We can temporarily alter the physical properties of matter. She slumped back, exhausted. It won't last long. It was enough. They reached the jump point and vanished into hyperspace moments before the Imperial fighters could fire again. Hours later, safely hidden in the swirling gases of the Cerulean Nebula, they docked at Raiders Point, a sprawling, lawless collection of ships and habitats welded together over decades. In their small rented room, Darius finally asked the question that had been burning in his mind. Why didn't you use your abilities to escape before? Helix sat beside him on the narrow bed. The control bracelet would have killed me, and, she hesitated, I wasn't sure I wanted to escape. Why not? At first because I had nowhere to go, then because I didn't want to leave you. She reached up, touching his face gently. You showed me kindness when I expected only cruelty. You risked everything to help my people. Darius caught her hand, holding it against his cheek. I couldn't let them hurt you. Why? Her three eyes searched his, all focused on him with an intensity that made his heart race. Instead of answering, he leaned forward and kissed her. Her lips were warm, softer than he'd imagined, and she responded with a passion that matched his own. When they finally pulled apart, her copper skin was glowing faintly. That's why, he whispered. Later, as they lay together in the darkness, the reality of their situation returned. They were fugitives with limited resources, hunted by the most powerful force in the galaxy. What now? Helix asked, her head resting on his chest. There's a planet called Haven at the edge of known space. Other refugees have found sanctuary there, if we can reach it. We could start over. She propped herself up to look at him, her golden curls falling around her face. But is that what you want, to leave everything behind? Darius thought about the empire he'd served, the uniform he'd worn with pride, the career he'd built. None of it seemed to matter anymore. You are my home now, he said simply, wherever that takes us. Haven lived up to its name. From orbit, it appeared as a blue-green jewel against the blackness of space, untouched by Imperial influence. As their stolen vessel, their third since fleeing Raiders Point, descended through the atmosphere, Darius felt a weight lifting from his shoulders. It's beautiful, Helix whispered, all three eyes wide with wonder at the lush landscape below. The settlement was nestled in a valley between towering mountains, a collection of structures built from local materials and salvaged spacecraft parts. Species from a dozen worlds moved through the streets, some Darius recognized, others entirely alien to him. They were greeted by an elderly human woman with steel-gray hair and calculating eyes. I'm Governor Eliza Nakamura, she said, studying them both. We don't get many Imperial deserters here, Commander Vega. Darius tensed. How do you know who I am? News travels even to the edge of the galaxy. The Empire has placed quite a price on both your heads. She turned to Helix. Especially yours, Scholar Eilester. Helix stepped forward. We seek asylum, nothing more. Asylum comes with conditions, Nakamura replied. Everyone contributes here, no exceptions for former Imperial commanders or Solani scholars. We'll work, Darius said without hesitation. Whatever you need. Their new home was a small cabin on the settlement's outskirts, simple but private. For the first time since their escape, they could breathe freely, plan a future that extended beyond survival. Darius found purpose training Haven's defense forces, refugees like himself who had chosen to stand against Imperial expansion. Helix established a school, teaching the settlement's children about the cultures and languages of dozens of worlds. 6 months passed in relative peace. Then one morning the alarm klaxons sounded throughout the settlement. Imperial scout ship, Nakamura informed them grimly. They've found us. The following days were a blur of preparations. Darius worked tirelessly with the defense teams while Helix helped evacuate the most vulnerable residents to caves in the mountains. When the Imperial cruiser appeared in orbit, Darius knew they were outmatched. The settlement's defenses might hold for a day, perhaps two, but eventually they would fall. That night he found Helix in their cabin, packing essential supplies. You should go with the others, he said. I'll stay with the defense team. She shook her head, golden curls bouncing. We stay together always. This is my fight. No, all three of her eyes fixed on him with determination. It's ours, and we may have another option. She explained how her people's warning system, established after their first communication, had spread throughout the galaxy. Other species subjugated by the Empire had formed an alliance. Help was coming, if they could hold out long enough. As dawn broke, Darius stood on the settlement's wall, watching the Imperial shuttles descend. Beside him, Helix's copper skin gleamed in the morning light. Do you regret it, she asked quietly, choosing this life? Darius took her hand, remembering the cold, dutiful officer he'd been before she entered his life. Not for a moment. The battle that followed would become legend among the resistance. How a small settlement of refugees held off an Imperial assault for 3 days. How, when all seemed lost, a fleet of ships from a dozen worlds appeared in Haven's sky. How the Empire suffered its first major defeat, sparking rebellions across the galaxy. But for Darius and Helix, The true victory came months later, as they stood on the porch of their rebuilt cabin, watching twin suns set over Haven's mountains. "My people have a belief," Helix said, her head resting against his shoulder, "that souls find each other across lifetimes, across species, across the vastness of space." Darius smiled, pulling her closer. "I think they might be right." In the distance, children played in the settlement square, human, Solani, and a dozen other species growing up together in peace. The future they'd fought for. The home they'd built together. Retry Claude can make mistakes. Please double-check responses.